Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 473 based on novel. So let's start. The boundless remote ocean was extremely wide, and above it, there was an even wider shadow of the ocean of laws. A tremendous amount of godly power ocean water was continuously falling like a rainstorm. It's the ocean of laws. Such an unexpected amount of godly power that has befallen. Within the clusters of palaces in Milky Way Holy Land, the true gods, universe masters, and many universe knights were all watching from afar. They were all shocked by the shadow of the ocean of laws in the distance. Enveloped by the endless godly ocean waters was a figure clothed in a white robe. It is devouring at such an unbelievably fast speed, Luo Feng marveled in wonder. For the average godly body to recover from severe injuries, recovering 90% to 100% generally required a short time. However, to recover from 50% to 100%, the required time would skyrocket to at least 10,000 or 1,000,000 times. Consuming the godly body would mean losing part of the soul. Therefore, recovery was extremely difficult. This was why a small consumption of godly body was easy to recover from. For example, recovering a godly body from 98% to 100% was certainly quite easy to achieve. The same theory applied here. The volume of the boundless remote ocean was only an approximate 90% of its actual size because it was a recombination of godly power. In fact, Luo Feng had not lost any part of his soul. Thus, his absorption speed could be extremely fast. I can feel it as though every bit of godly power within me is screaming out loud while madly swallowing, Luo Feng said in amazement. Under normal circumstance, absorbing the godly power within the ocean of laws is relatively more difficult, but now, as I am swallowing, the virtual shadow of the ocean of laws descends directly, and everything seems to fall into place nicely. When crossing over the levels from Undying to Night and then to Universe Master, every time he had crossed a particular threshold, the ocean of laws had directly poured out its godly power. But Luo Feng's breakthrough this time around was a breakthrough of the godly body level. He had not crossed any threshold. Regardless of how keen the willpower of the origin was in helping Luo Feng build up his godly body as soon as possible, it had to obey the law, which made it a must for Luo Feng to be proactive in his absorption, in order to prompt the fall of the godly ocean water. 1. Luo Feng's soul was complete. 2. At 100,000 times godly power, the absorption was shocking. 3. With the permission of the supreme law, the willpower of the origin was remarkably cooperative. This was why it only took slightly over a year for the boundless remote ocean to expand again. This time its diameter was as wide as 12 light years. It cannot expand any further. The white-robed Luo Feng stood on the surface of the boundless remote ocean. High in the sky, the shadow of the ocean of laws finally dissipated. I have reached a diameter of 12 light years. There is no way I can swallow any more godly power. Luo Feng was deep in thought. I have achieved the third level of godly body, where the size of a godly body is supposedly adjustable according to one's own preference, but this unlimited godly body, most unfortunately, does not seem to be truly unlimited after all. It should be noted that within the ocean of laws of the primal universe, there were limited resources. So how could it be possible to be truly unlimited? A diameter of 12 light years was already a limit that was impossible to surpass. Luo Feng took one look at the faraway cluster of palaces. There were indeed many great beings looking over from afar. Apparently, the virtual shadow of the ocean of laws that had been sustained for more than a year and the tremendous amount of godly ocean water that was like a heavy storm had dealt them a great shock. Let's begin. Having made a move in his mind, Luo Feng saw several figures appear successively beside him. They were his remote ocean body, Mosha body, golden horned beast body, and, in addition, his earthling original body. All stood before him. Compact. Luo Feng looked down at the vast remote ocean. Shortly after, Luo Feng made another move in his mind. Immediately, the boundless remote ocean crashed toward Luo Feng's earthling original body in a great surge. The earthling original body was like a bottomless pit. It swallowed and accommodated all the godly ocean water to its heart's content, and within the blink of an eye, the mighty and boundless remote ocean had vanished. Not a trace was left. But no. To be more precise, a small lake remained. Compared to the previous remote ocean, this small lake was negligible. Huh? Luo Feng frowned as he looked into the distance at the small lake amidst the void space. My earthling original body cannot accommodate all the godly body of the boundless remote ocean. He mused to himself, the power of that small lake is equivalent to the reserve of power in my earthling original godly body, meaning to say, the godly power my earthling original body had was the same as that of the boundless remote ocean when its diameter was at 12 light years. No more, no less. I can't be too greedy. The white-robed Luo Feng looked to his side. An indistinct golden light came on. Right away, his earthling original body, his golden horned beast body, his Mosha body, the small lake, and his remote ocean body all went into the golden light. From afar, Void Gold True God, Fire Dome True God, and the various others were all filled with anticipation. To God Country. Milky Way Horde leader has set off for his God Country. After swallowing such a tremendous amount of godly power, it should be time for him to start expanding his God Country into a miniature universe. In the vast God Country, there were grasslands, a great ocean, and mountains. Luo Feng stood high up in the air as he looked down at his vast God Country. My God Country has reached its limit. I just need to start expanding, and very soon, my God Country will be able to evolve into a miniature universe. My godly power has also absorbed to its limit. I am no longer able to absorb any more, so, let's begin. Luo Feng was standing high up in the sky where he could not help but feel a little excited. How could he not be excited, considering he had looked forward to this day for as long as 1,000,000,000,000 eras? Then, with a thought, Luo Feng's vast God Country started expanding with a loud rumble. From where they were originally, the boundary walls of his God Country started expanding outwards. This expansion brought about a sudden, violent reaction. The entire God Country trembled, and instantly, a void passageway appeared. It remained connected to his God Country. He did not know where it originated from, but from the end that was lodged within his God Country, an endless, chaotic airflow started to surge outward like crazy. The moment this dense, chaotic airflow charged its way in, it tore heaven and earth apart, it tore the ocean apart, everything was shattered and returned to a chaotic state. With the tremendous amount of energy supplied by the chaotic airflow, his God Country started to expand like crazy. Following the expansion of his God Country, another void passageway appeared. This allowed even more chaotic airflow to surge in. It was like a scene in which the world was facing total destruction. Luo Feng stood in the middle of his God Country and looked around. Numerous void passages were emerging successively, thus allowing an upsurge of chaotic airflow. This caused the whole God Country to become a chaotic whirlpool. At this point, his God Country was still expanding. As it was expanding, it was constantly on the move. Luo Feng's God Country had originally been within a space interlayer, and beyond it was the membrane wall of the primal universe. By penetrating the membrane wall, one would enter the primal universe. At the moment, his God Country was consistently making progress in its advances. However, expanding from a God Country to a miniature universe did require a certain amount of time. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. It's going to be 100 million light years, soon. A diameter of 100 million light years is the general volume for all miniature universes of true gods. Luo Feng stood amidst the endless, chaotic airflow, filled with anticipation for his own God Country. The diameter of miniature universes of true gods of void space usually fell within a range of 1 billion light years to 10 billion light years. But for true gods, the diameter was kept at a consistent 100 million light years. This was because when these miniature universes were first born, it was always the same situation. Upon expanding and acquiring their fixed forms, the miniature universes would immediately begin working out their internal structures. And when the true gods became true gods of void space after their breakthroughs in the future, these internal structures and true gods' powers would affect the sizes of their miniature universes. The entire God Country trembled suddenly. The walls surrounding his God Country slowly transformed into universe membrane walls and eventually became a massive godly body with a diameter of 100 million light years. Then this miniature universe with a diameter of 100 million light-years unexpectedly continued to expand. Still expanding. Luo Feng, who was already exhilarated, was now shocked. All miniature universes of true gods are usually around the same size. Why is my miniature universe still expanding? Could it be related to my godly body? Luo Feng could not help wondering. Previously, when he had first achieved 100,000 times life gene level, the billions of races from the primal universe had knelt before him to offer their congratulatory wishes. That scene had been incredible. As for the expansion of his god country, it was closely related to the godly body. For the godly power route, there would first be a breakthrough in one's godly body, so that the god country could continue to expand a little. Usually, for those who chose the godly power path, regardless of whether it was 30,000 times, 60,000 times or 90,000 times, their miniature universes would still remain at a diameter of 100 million light-years. Yet Luo Feng had managed to unshackle himself from this restraint. According to the documentation on the ancient civilization by the pulse of Duandong River and the world of Jin, no true god was known to have achieved 100,000 times life gene level. This was much more difficult to achieve than 90,000 times life gene level, hence the scarcity of such occurrences. In such a situation, could it be so simple to achieve 100,000 times life gene level? To achieve 30,000 times life gene level, the height of a godly body would increase sharply by 10 times. To achieve 60,000 times life gene level, the height of a godly body would increase sharply by 1,000 times, and achieving 90,000 times life gene level would allow one to reach the stage of an unlimited godly body, where its size was entirely up to the true god's own preference. As for 100,000 times, more laws would fall, and the various other races would come forth to express their congratulations. If this were not regarded as unique, that would be a joke. Yet now, Luo Feng was focused on becoming a true god. Thus, he had yet to look into this area in depth. At that moment, his miniature universe had exceeded the common diameter measurement of 100,000 light-years, which was one of the special traits enabled by the achievement of 100,000 times life gene level. The greater the diameter, the more the volume would increase by leaps and bounds. This would then hinder the speed of expansion of the miniature universe because more chaotic airflow would be required. The diameter increased from 200 million light-years to 300 million light-years. As Luo Feng expanded his miniature universe, every single race from the primal universe all the way to the universe ocean had been waiting expectantly for a new miniature universe to appear. Yet, no matter how long they waited, there was no sign of a new miniature universe emerging. What is going on? Primal Chaos City leader wondered, feeling a bit anxious. Luo Feng previously told me that his god country was starting to change into a miniature universe. The evolution to form a miniature universe should not take too long, right? It has already been half a year. Why is there still no news? Opposite Primal Chaos City leader, there was another white-robed man, Teacher Origin. Luo Feng liked white robes, and so did Teacher Origin. But the two were of very different temperaments. Luo Feng was more like a long-range rifle, unwavering, sharp, and unstoppable. On the other hand, Teacher Origin was of a gentler disposition. I, too, don't know. Teacher Origin shook his head. The virtual universe could only vaguely detect the other region. I am sure of it. Luo Feng's god country is right at that region, but right now, it is expanding, and his origin is starting to take form. I cannot intrude any further. No need to mention that when his god country is expanding, with the help of the willpower of the origin, and with the supreme laws will help to bring about, no one will be able to affect him. No one will be able to contact him. During a breakthrough, one was under absolute protection. No one was able to interrupt another's breakthrough period. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The various races of Universe Ocean were all feeling anxious. Within his own miniature universe, Luo Feng could feel the continuous expansion of his miniature universe until one fine day, when the miniature universe finally stopped expanding with a rumble, and everything was formed. At the same time, an unstoppable, mighty force was exerted over the miniature universe. The miniature universe was originally already situated by the membrane walls of the primal universe. Under the influence of this unstoppable and mighty force, it was popped out easily as though it was no more than a glass ball. The entire miniature universe crashed its way out of the primal universe, and like a fish entering the ocean or like a bird soaring up into the sky, this miniature universe finally made its way into the vast universe ocean. This miniature universe had a diameter of 1 billion light-years. No more, no less. When it was being blasted out of the primal universe, a gaping hole with a diameter bigger than 1 billion light-years was left on the membrane walls of the primal universe. The miniature universe revolved in a rolling manner that crushed and compacted the surroundings, causing the chaotic airflow to be in an upsurge. To bombard such a massive object hard enough to push it out of its original position, how powerful a force would that be? There was a violent vibration, and the vibration was transmitted out. Since the time when Luo Feng had caused billions of races of the primal universe to bow before him, he had become a subject of concern for every single race of universe ocean. When he had brought his many other bodies back to his god country, great beings from the various races of universe ocean had also long been stationed at areas outside the universe membrane walls corresponding to the humans' territory at the earlier stage, that is, the humans' territory before huge Axis annihilation. As many as several hundred universe masters were scattered all over, lying low in waiting. Tear. A green-colored beast that resembled a lizard was suspended amidst the void space in a winding manner with flashing green eyes. There are ripples. Right away, it discovered that not far away, there a bout of powerful ripples was being transmitted over. Without further ado, it teleported and rushed toward where it had located its target. What? After reaching its destination upon teleportation, it spotted at first glance the massive miniature universe that was still rolling and rumbling even though it was a distance away. Within this vast region, it was not alone. A few dozen universe masters had rushed over upon detecting the ripples. It is a miniature universe. It's huge. It is very close to the membrane wall of the primal universe. It probably just blasted out. Look, it is still tumbling about. It must have just been thrown out. Such a big miniature universe. How big must it be? It was so large. Plus, the surging waves of chaotic airflow made it difficult to have a clear view of anything at all. Using their naked eyes alone, the universe masters would not be able to come up with an accurate judgment. Instantly, the universe masters teleported nearer to this miniature universe. Encircling it, they tried to come up with a more accurate judgment of its actual size. This newly emerged miniature universe has a diameter of 1 billion light-years. Wow! 1 billion light-years. Other true gods' miniature universes are all only as big as 100 million light-years. Purple Moon Holy Land universe has a diameter of 210 million light-years, and East Emperor Holy Land universe has a diameter of 320 million light-years, but both the Holy Land ancestors had long transcended reincarnation to achieve a much higher level. That is how their miniature universes were able to get so big. For this Milky Way Horde leader's miniature universe to be so big, this is quite unexpected. They were all shocked. But even though they were shocked, they were still able to accept. Because in their hearts, they all knew that for Luo Feng to become the #1 master of Universe Ocean while still a mere universe master, and for him to be able to get billions of races, including true gods, of the primal universe to bow before him the moment he achieved a breakthrough, it was not strange for him to be able to create such a miracle, given such impressive power and influence. Right away, the news was rapidly spread to every race in the entire Universe Ocean. He has become a true god, and his miniature universe has a diameter of 1 billion light-years? Ha ha! Great! Divine Eye True Master and the other 4 True Masters had gathered, and Divine Eye True Master was greatly delighted as he commented, Milky Way is by far the most powerful true god. We finally have a hope of stemming the tide of the Sector Beast crisis. Only a true god, and yet his miniature universe is so big. Even the inheritance of the ancient civilization of the world of Jinn has no records of such a feat. Incredible, incredible. Impossible. Purple Moon Ancestor also got the news and was in for a great shock. Ancestor, I saw it with my own eyes, the godly-powered avatar of a particular universe master beneath Purple Moon Ancestor reported deferentially. Not just me, in fact. The various races of Universe Ocean all know that this is the absolute truth. Purple Moon Ancestor was dumbfounded. This. During some favorable encounters in his life, Purple Moon Ancestor had belittled even someone like East Emperor. Undoubtedly, he must have known a great deal. Previously, billions of races all bowed to him as a means of congratulating him, and now, his true God miniature universe has attained a diameter of 1 billion light-years. Purple Moon Ancestor shook his head. From this pulse of mine, there have been several existences who stood at the peak of the ancient civilization. However, for all of them, when they became true gods, their miniature universes had diameters of 100 million light-years. It was the same for everyone in this ancient civilization, without exception. This Luo Feng, what has he done? Purple Moon Ancestor gritted his teeth. No matter how strong you are, it will be best if you can kill all the sector beasts. In Universe Ocean, it was a scene of celebration. Even Luo Feng's enemies were equally delighted because he was their only hope of dealing with the sector beasts. Of course, the humans in their own territorial grounds were most excited. Luo Feng's parents, his wife, his sons, and his other family members, as well as Primal Chaos City leader and True Yang, all of whom were always greatly concerned about Luo Feng, were excited beyond containment. Even Teacher Origin could not help marveling when he learned of the news, saying, "How can a mere true god's miniature universe be this big? Incredible. This is simply incredible." No matter how the outside world rejoiced, no one was able to establish contact with Luo Feng. Within his miniature universe, Luo Feng looked all around. The void passages had long vanished, and the entire miniature universe was filled with an endless and majestic chaotic airflow. The universe has expanded to its ultimate limit. The next step will be to unite all my other bodies, return back to their origin, and then transform back into my Earthling original body. There are also the universe origin and universe structure. Luo Feng held his breath. The next steps had to be completed in succession. And among them, the one involving the universe structure was the most important step. The internal structure of the miniature universe had to be determined at the very beginning, before everything else could be finalized. Once the chaotic airflow started to transform into the 10 basic law forces, such as time and space, there would no longer be the chance to establish the structure. For any superior great being, there was only one chance for structuring their universe. This was a once-in-a-lifetime event. 1. This structure would determine the future of the miniature universe when it had to undergo evolution in the future. 2. It determined the origin of the miniature universe. And 3. It determined the ultimate limit that the great being could attain. Determining the most basic structure was like laying the foundation when building a skyscraper. If the foundation was not well established, then naturally, it would not be possible to construct a skyscraper at all. If a universe structure was not well constructed to begin with, then in the future, the gradual evolution of the miniature universe would also be limited. For instance, it would be impossible to achieve a breakthrough in evolving to the eternal true God stage. Even if one might already have an extremely high comprehension ability, if one's miniature universe did not evolve and enhance itself, there would never be a breakthrough. How could this step be taken lightly? Luo Feng stood amid the endless, chaotic airflow where his eyes could easily reach any corner of his miniature universe. All bodies unite. Return to origin. Luo Feng gave the order right away. His voice resounded throughout the entire miniature universe. A strong bout of power immediately worked its influence over Luo Feng's original body, Mosha body, Golden Horned Beast body, Remote Ocean body, and the small Remote Ocean Lake. Instantly, all of these were shifted to another space. This space was contained within the miniature universe origin. At that moment, it was chaotic within the internal space of the universe origin, as the structure had yet to finalize. The universe structure must be finalized before the origin could take full form. Disintegrate? The other bodies were completely disintegrated instantly while all the treasures that they carried with them floated aside. This combination of disintegrated bodies transformed into the core of a formidable godly power, where heart was found. That was the heart of a true god. The heart of a true god was the most important thing within the body of a true god. The soul would be hidden within the heart, and it was how he could communicate with the origin of his miniature universe. If the origin of his miniature universe was transformed into a great amount of godly power, this power could be transmitted directly to the heart of a true God. Once the heart of a true God shattered, that marked the end of the true God. Luo Feng's origin of miniature universe was 1,000 times stronger than that of any other true God at the same level, so his heart was also stronger by 1,000 times. Return to origin. As the voice of Luo Feng's willpower sounded, great godly power started to change and condense through a cohesion process. In the process of cohesion, the godly power was constantly being refined, and in moments, it soared by 100 times. At the same time, the cohesion process gave form to flesh and blood, skeletal structure and bones, skin and hair. Very soon, a naked, black-haired man appeared within the origin of the miniature universe that had yet to take complete form. When the miniature universe is complete, I can return to the origin, Luo Feng whispered to himself with a sigh. With the previous God country, how would it be able to support such an original earthling body of mine? Unfortunately, he thought, my power that has soared up to 100 times. This is merely a transformation of my godly power. So now, my godly power is only left with 1% of my previous amount. If this remaining power was spread out and transformed in the form of an ocean, then previously, his godly power could be transformed into an ocean with a diameter of 12 light years. Now, he was left with a power that could be transformed into an ocean with a diameter slightly more than 2 light years. Of course, so long as there was enough power, it was still possible to recover back to the diameter of 12 light years. This was, however, up to Luo Feng's miniature universe to swallow and consume enough power for supply. The primal universe could no longer provide Luo Feng with any more energy. Fortunately, by becoming a true God, my soul will be hidden within the heart of true God. In terms of quantity, even if I have not achieved my ultimate potential, my power can still be released to its maximum potential. Regardless, I have finally become a true God. Luo Feng let out a long sigh and, for the moment, felt a tremendous amount of fiery passion. True God. He had waited so long for this day. Come. Luo Feng set his gaze afar. Not far from him, all the treasures, like Wu Qi God and Shawu wings, which were afloat in midair, suddenly came flying at high speed toward him. Wu Qi God enveloped him all over, forming an armor over his entire body, while Shawu wings also appeared on his back. Star Tower, Blood Ghost Blade, and various other treasures were all stored with a flip of Luo Feng's palm. Now, we have to start on the most important step, Luo Feng said to himself. The pulse of Duandong River and the pulse of the world of Jin, both have a set of their own miniature universe structure laws. Even the 3 generations of ancestors and the godly king of Jin's miniature universe structure laws have records. However, my set of structure law does not necessarily have to be the same as theirs. A long time ago, Luo Feng had once put some thought into designing a framework for his own structure law. This was a final set of laws that Luo Feng had come up with. It was based on other various structure laws from the pulse of Duandong River and the pulse of the world of Jin. At the time, Luo Feng had named it Cloud 9. However, this time around, he had broken through to achieve 100,000 times life gene level. For the past year or so, while swallowing godly power from the endless remote ocean, Luo Feng had been constantly pondering the matter. Based on his comprehension of the life structure diagram and the numerous structure laws that he had come across throughout this period of time, he had created another set of structure laws. Upon coming up with this newer set of structure laws, Luo Feng could instantly sense that it had absolutely transcended its predecessor, Cloud 9. Luo Feng named this set of structure laws, Beginning of the Origin. Luo Feng stood within the space of the universe origin of his miniature universe. Internally, everything was chaotic because it had yet to take complete form. Rise! Luo Feng's thoughts shrouded the entire universe, and regardless of the space of origin or all the chaos within the universe, everything shook and trembled. 100,000 heavens! Luo Feng's willpower enshrouded everything around him as it started to get mobilized. It was just like how the myths and legends described the creation of heaven and earth. It was not one Pan-Gu creating the universe, but 100,000 of him, simultaneously creating the universe. The chaotic airflow within the entire universe was manipulated into splitting and rotating, then gradually condensing to take form as planes within space started to rapidly emerge. Within the span of a single thought, 100,000 planes within spaces were formed. Luo Feng's face registered a solemn expression. The execution of this structure law, beginning of the origin, was tens of thousands of times more difficult than the execution of Cloud 9. Even if his willpower was differentially controlled, there was still a chance of failure. The moment he failed, his structure law could not be regarded as a beginning of the origin. It would only suffice as 100,000 heavens, which meant it was only comparable to structure laws that were considered relatively superior, like those of the pulse of Duan Dong River or the pulse of the world of Jin. Luo Feng, for one, would certainly not be content to be at this level. This video will end here.